Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Two Marks Talk Tottenham. We're going to have a bit of a chat about yesterday's game and also what's really going on at Tottenham this season and maybe a bit further back as well. Delighted to introduce, first of all, the other Mark, because he's obviously a massive part of this channel. We've got Danny with us tonight. We've got Ian Lubo and we've got Sava with us. So we're just going to.
How are you all?
With it, and we've all said hello before the show. We're going to get into it, and let's start first about the general performance of the team yesterday against Arsenal. And whoever wants to go first, you crack on.
Free fall.
Does anyone even want to talk about it? Go on then. I just thought that game, there was no passion in it. We looked all over the place. Same Spurs, different game, different day. Manager didn't have a clue on how to change it. It was obvious we needed to get something sorted in that midfield. So what did he do? Take out anything defensive and go even more gung-ho than he did straight away. Nothing is changing with this man now. He's got to go.
Anyone else?
Yeah, what he said. Yeah, look, I feel like I've seen a lot of videos today, a lot of titles about were Spurs unlucky? Did Spurs do well? Were we robbed? I genuinely do not know what we're watching, guys. I thought it was an awful performance from start to finish. A dreadful performance with no fight, no composure, no urgency, no energy. And you know, I was listening to TalkSport earlier, and they were talking. Harry Redknapp and Gabia Bonglahor were talking. One of those I really like, and one of them I don't really care for. But they were both right. They said from the first minute, Arsenal were up for it. Arsenal went into that game like, "Hey, this is our neighbours. We want to beat them, and we want to get up that table." And every tackle that they did was celebrated. All their players, if you notice, were giving it the. We looked timid. We looked weak. We looked all over the place. And again, tactically, I've never seen a worse football team in my life. We are tactically horrible. I'll leave it there. I'll let Lubo go. He's probably got a few excuses in his back pocket.
Go on, Ian. What are you thinking about the performance yesterday?
I thought the performance was poor. We should have been beaten by more, albeit the first goal should never have, the corner should never have been given. I just think the clubs are all over the place. The whole club's a shambles. From literally from top to bottom. There's no guidance. There are no leaders. There are no leaders even from the top. And if we get involved, if we get dragged into a relegation fight, what leaders on the pitch are going to drag us out of it? Because this manager isn't. The whole thing is just poor. I think just to say that Basuma and Sarr got pulled at half time. Basuma probably got pulled because he's given the goal away. He wasn't overly terrible apart from that. Sarr was just non-existent. The second half was 0-0, so it didn't have any bearing on the final result. And it was very noticeable that of the three midfield players that started, Bergvall was the one that stayed on. And he's just getting better. The kid's just getting better and better.
I didn't think he was good yesterday, though. I didn't. I thought in the first half it completely bypassed him. If we're going to be brutally honest, he gave the ball away again. He's good, Ian, but I feel we're doing this thing with the youngsters that because they're actually not looking young and they're not looking out of place, that we're overpraising them. I thought he was. I thought he struggled to get into the game in the first half. I thought he was absolutely bullied by Rice, by Partey, and by Odegaard. Second half, I thought he was a bit better, but I thought Basuma actually had a good game until that one moment. But Ian, can I ask a quick question? The substitutions, right? To take off two central midfielders and bring on a playmaker and a wide forward is just absolutely mind-boggling. What he was trying to achieve, what he expect. I don't understand this manager at all. He is single-handedly the worst manager I've ever seen at everything. Subs, press conferences, tactics, defensively. It was a shambles at the halftime. It was a shambles.
Right, first half was really poor. Of the two halves, we were worse in the first half than the second. And we had, we had a lot more of the ball second half as well. At least they were trying to attack. First half, it was just a blitz, wasn't it? We weren't at the races. So for me to take one of the two off showed he was being proactive. He had to do something at half time. If the same 11 had come out, for the second half, everybody would have been saying, "What the hell is he doing? He's just seen us get mullered for 45 minutes, and he's done nothing." So I didn't blame him for making substitutions. I would have put Richie on earlier for Solanke.
Yeah, but you blame him for making those substitutions. There's a difference between doing something for doing something's sake and doing something because it makes us a better football team. I don't think it. I think it allowed them to just run through us second half. They just ran through us at will.
Yeah.
I would have kept Basuma. I would have taken. I agreed with it. Sar off.
Agreed.
You're 2-1 down. You've got to try and get back in the game. So
I agree.
I think he did the right thing making subs, because if he wouldn't have, he'd have got grilled in that as well. But the subs he made, he just opened us up even more in the middle, where you could see we was vulnerable, even though we was all over the pitch, really, especially down the flanks. One of the things he could have done at half time, which he should have done at the start, is the same thing I keep repeating, is stop the inverted wing-back crap. That would have helped us out as well. But no, he don't want to change his crap there either. He just opened us up in the middle even more. He made us even more vulnerable. You say we had a better second half. Yeah, maybe to the eye. But if you look at it properly, Arsenal slowed down a bit in the second half because they didn't have to come out of gear in the second half.
No, I've got to say,
threatening on it.
Dan, they couldn't have kept pressing at that intensity the whole game.
Yeah, they didn't have to. That's what I'm saying.
No,
they did not have to.
No, but they didn't ease off like Liverpool did at 5-1. They just didn't. You can't physically. You can't press.
So what they did, Ian, was ease off when they should. Like we don't, and we end up just easing off because we're broken. They didn't ease off because they was knackered. They eased off because most of the job was done, and they was like, right, we'll slow down a bit, keep the game like we need to.
Dan, isn't this what everyone does to us though? Like Newcastle did this. They got their 2-1 lead, second half. This again, I think we could. This is where Ian and I disagree.
It's not because we made them.
I think we confuse having more of the ball with playing better. I thought we did.
I agree.
Absolutely sweet FA in that second half. We had some of the football and had no plan. And the problem was, again, I'm seeing people in the chat. Yeah, he's got to make substitutions, but what manager completely removes their entire midfield? It's mind-boggling. For me, what he had to do was actually change something tactically. And this is I will die on this hill. Talking about you can't just keep going, right, I'm gonna take Son off for Richie. Okay, but what are you changing tactically? Nothing, player for player. I'm gonna take off Maddison for Basuma. Okay, but what are you doing tactically? He doesn't change anything tactically. And if you're gonna be at one of the best teams in the country, right, and they are, whether we hate them or not, they're the second best team in the country. If you're going to be away at the second best team in the country and have a midfield free of Bergvall, Kulu, and Maddison, you are asking to be ripped wide open in midfield. Yeah. And this excuse of we had to chase the game, there's chasing a game and there's just being suicidal. And we were lucky that Arsenal should have had 5 or 6. Arsenal tore through us, and thank God they can't finish. Thank God they can't finish because it was one of the worst North London derby performances I've ever seen. I thought we were atrocious. Sure. Again, but sorry, look, Eugene in your chat, you sound we're always lucky. Eugene, you watched the same game as me. Declan Rice came out and mocked us. Said, we should have scored 10. Now, I don't agree with him that it should have been 10, but how many times we left Trossard at the back post completely unmarked and he skewed his shot. Odegaard missed from 6-7 yards. Right? Havertz, 2 headers,
Twice.
1 straight at the keeper, 1 over the bar, right?
Yeah.
Sterling had a shot just wide. Like, we are so wide open. I'm genuinely starting to think, sorry if this pisses anyone off, I'm genuinely starting to think our fan base don't understand tactics. We genuinely do not understand tactics because we are wide open every game. And then we go, but no buts, stop being wide open. You can't be wide open with Partey, Odegaard and Rice. That's a top midfield. My mind blows at how shit this manager is.
Leaving yourself open at the back with the thing I keep saying, we've got no options. Of course we have. Stop using bloody inverted wing backs, come back a little bit and play a bit more counter because you've got to adapt to the cards you've got. And he don't.
Thank you.
He doesn't know how to.
Scared. Tactics don't matter at that point. That's our fan base. Eugene, I'll call you out to your face. You're a loser. Sorry, mate. I love you to bits, but that loser's mentality is where we're at. Tactics don't matter. Of course it bloody matters. Of course the tactics matter. Arsenal, did you guys see what Manu Petit said about Spurs yesterday?
Today.
Yeah, no, but what he said about the performance, just like and talking about this in general, he said I've never seen such poor tactics. He said it was so comfortable for Arsenal, and Arsenal weren't even at their best.
And that's from an 18-year-old. And that's from an 18-year-old.
Harry Redknapp on TalkSport. Look what he said. Look what Harry Redknapp on TalkSport said as well. Repeated the same thing. He said these tactics, this man has to get his act together, basically.
Yeah, so I've got to
some
ask,
of these problems are simple enough to fix. Like I said, he's just got to tweak with a few things that he does, and he could make us less vulnerable. There's a start. Now, I get with the gung-ho, all out, all guns blazing when you got 5 minutes to go and you want that point or you need that win or whatever. I get that. Yes. But then to the point that we're trying to go gung-ho and we're still playing piss ball tippy-tappy at the bloody back and not even putting long balls out there. And then when it comes to the front, that when we do get the ball up there, our central striker is still jogging up from the halfway line and Son hasn't even made his way into the box yet. What chance do we... He's got to fix a couple of these tactics and he can change it. But he doesn't want to.
He won't. He doesn't want to.
On to the next subject. Well, not subject, but what we're talking about really. Why do you think that Angie's so against changing? We know he does little tweaks. There's little odds and sods here, but you know, why is he seeing that we're so wide open all the time, yet he's continuing to let it happen? Is it just because he's ignorant?
Mark, he's not capable. He's not capable. He's not capable. I don't know how much more big up Dave. Dave's gonna.
Yeah. I was gonna say. I was gonna say before you start, Sam. Welcome, Dave.
No, look, I do apologise about being late, but it's just my show overran a lot longer than what.
That's all right, mate.
So, but I am here now. So go on.
Thanks for being here, Dave. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having me, lads. Good evening, panel. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, David. Very nice to see you, you handsome fellow. I feel like, Mark, we could talk about this as Spurs fans for years. I just feel like we're at the stage where, aren't we at the point where the guy's not capable of changing it? If a manager is sitting and watching his team game in, game out, do the same thing and isn't changing it, at what point are we going to stop calling it stubborn and actually say, has this guy got the capability to change it? He hasn't. Mm-hmm. Again, Arsenal, the latest in a long line of teams last night to realise, you know what? Spurs play Porro halfway up the pitch. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just keep giving the ball to our left-sided winger. And we gave Trossard, even before the goal, how much space you want to give Trossard? Yeah. Right? How much space? Every left winger that plays against Tottenham, we make them look like Ryan Giggs. Every left winger playing against Spurs must go, I'm having fun today. And he never changes it. And I genuinely don't know how much worse this football club has to get under this manager before we all wake up and go, he's shit. So, we're happy. Have you noticed? We're happy to lambast. We're happy to go, oh, Werner's shit. Brennan Johnson's shit. Basuma does this. Maddison does this. But the man that's making all this happen, so much of the fan base won't turn around and go, you know what? I was wrong. He's shit. We're dying on a hill for the worst manager the club's ever had. I cannot wait for this guy to get sacked. I can't wait.
I think it's more. I think it's more. I've read excerpts, bits and pieces from his book, where he talks about his life and how his father spoke to him and how his ideas have been put together. There you go. And I just think he thinks that his way, the way that he's been brought up and the way he's been taught, and because he's been successful in 3 different leagues, that is the way to go. And because he's been successful, he doesn't see any reason to change. You know, the guy's 58, 59. You know, it's easier to change mentally when you're younger and adapt, and he doesn't. He doesn't, you know, and I genuinely think that because he is so stuck in his ways, he doesn't consider different ways of playing, different tactics. He's just not interested. Has no interest, and we're in free fall. The club's in free fall at the moment. We're just lurking down that league, you know. And what worries me is that, you know, if this carries on, by the time we get to Ipswich late February, we'll be down there with them.
Yeah.
I've said it a little while ago, back 3 months ago. I called this back that if we are not careful, if this man does not win it, we are in for a relegation fight.
Yeah.
Relegation as in we're fighting the bottom 3 for love nor money. Not quite, but I think we're going to be closer than we need to. And then when we go playing these games like Ipswich, like when we go playing Everton, who are basically going to they need every point they get to stay up, all of them, they're going to be basically 6-point games for them and us. And if anywhere we're looking at, we can get 3 points here, they're going to come all guns blazing because they want to stay up, and plus they know we are breakable against anybody. And he just will not adapt his ways. Like you're saying, Ian, I think the difference is in it. I used to ask, is he stubborn? Is he naive? Is he this? Is he that? I think it's a bit of everything with him, but he's just so set that my way is the way it's done. And he just cannot accept or understand that this is the English Premier League. This is not the Scottish Premier League. This is not a league that is ranked lower than the MLS, for God's sake. But he just does not want to see it. This is not the Japanese league. This is not the bloody Australian league. But he doesn't want to change it. And a manager that cannot adapt to where he is at, play with the cards he's got, he shouldn't be here. For me, if he was in a smaller club as such, he'd have them relegated like that.
You see, he'll be thinking. Right. He'll be thinking, I've got my 2 centre backs coming back shortly.
Yeah,
I've got Benson.
Yeah.
That's what will be in his mind.
Well, let me have my say on the game. Right, first of all, it was the worst North London derby I've ever witnessed in my life. From the passion point of view, like normally a game with like the 2 teams, there's passion, there's tackles. We showed no passion, no get up and go in the game, no nothing, right? Arsenal were basically playing with us. They were toying with us. How easy we are to play against, right? If Arsenal had got 5, 6, it wouldn't have been a disgrace. If they'd have had Harry Kane in their team, it would have been 5 or 6. You know, we're just so easy to play against. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. This manager, in my opinion, is the worst manager I've seen. Certainly in the Premier League era. He's worse than Christian Gross.
Me too.
He's worse than all the rest of the people we'd never heard of that's come in. And, like, you know, it's dreadful. It's dreadful. It's getting embarrassing now to be a Tottenham fan. You know, it really is. It's getting that way. It is embarrassing to be a Tottenham fan.
Mark. It is funny. I think I've gone past embarrassing. I actually think it's funny.
Yeah.
And I know Dave hates when I say this. Half our fan base deserve this shit. I find it very funny.
Yeah.
Half our fan base keep championing this absolute clown in charge of the club. Keep going, give him a chance to turn it round. He's had 18 months. He's not turned around anything. He's going that way.
Well, put it this way, right? We'll put it this way, right? You know, I've said it on your show and I've put it in groups I'm in. My grandson was 1 on last Sunday, right? Big him up. It broke my heart, but I bought him a Plymouth Argyle kit because that's his hometown. But I thought, I can't force the poor lad. 80 plus years of like nonsense, making him support Tottenham.
Come on, though. You'd have more joy supporting Tottenham than Plymouth Argyle. They're just as bad down in the Championship fighting relegation. Let's be realistic here.
Well, yes, but they'll probably win League One next year. You know. And anyway, Dave, how did you see the game yesterday?
No, look, I sort of agree with the general assessment of everybody else. I think, look, we were outfought, outplayed, outrun, you know, and at the end of the day, it looked like the Arsenal players, you know, have more of an understanding of what a North London derby means than what Arsenal does. I think the whole first half, I'm sitting there scratching my head. What's the game plan? I came into the game knowing Arsenal are going to use the crowd. They're going to press us, and especially Dragusin and Porro, because the amount of times to give away the ball, we need to have a plan to counteract that and probably go a bit longer. Whatever the plan was, it didn't work, and I didn't see it in the first half. It was nowhere near good enough. But and at the end of the day, Postecoglou does have to take responsibility for it. You know, you got to have the right plan to navigate what Arsenal are going to do to you. Do I think everything that's going on at Tottenham Hotspur is Postecoglou's fault? No, I don't. Where I think the problem lies is, you know, when we have managers, everyone's going, we want them to adapt. That's fine. But the reality is the club ain't hiring managers that are known for adapting. They're hiring managers that are steadfast in their philosophy. When Postecoglou came in at Tottenham, everyone was trying to tell me, even though I watched him at Celtic for 2 years and I know a bit about him, or more than what people that haven't watched him, was trying to tell me he's a project manager. I told everybody he's not. He's a win-now manager, you know, same as Jose, same as Conte. He's not going to adapt. He's not going to do all this that many people think he is. He has his way of playing and he believes to it, to the point where it is going to cost him his own job. You know, don't get me wrong, you know, coming to the Premier League, there has to be some adaptation of what you've done in the other leagues. But the reality is, Jose Mourinho, Conte, Postecoglou, they've all won everywhere they've been before they've come to Tottenham Hotspur. They're not bad managers. The problem is, we are hiring managers that we know ain't gonna deviate from what had brought them success everywhere else. And to be quite frank, I think they're right. If it's brought them success everywhere else, why should they change for Tottenham Hotspur? You know, at the end of the day, we're the ones starving for success, so we should be doing things their way. But we don't do that at Tottenham. You know, last season, you know, people go on Postecoglou's clueless in that. He finished 5th last season. So what does that make everybody else that finished underneath him? Then coming into this season, the summer transfer window, we simply didn't have the right summer transfer window to match the ambitions of what everybody else wanted heading into this season. Everyone wanted trophies. Postecoglou spoke about it. Fans spoke about it. Even some of the players. But when you look at the transfer window, it doesn't match up to what the ambitions are. We brought in one player to come in and improve the 11 from the situation last season. The rest of them are all youngsters. And at the end of the day, I said it in the summer. I said, we've had a poor transfer window, and I think you're going to see a lot of inconsistencies, and it's going to come back to bite us this season. Did I think it was going to, you know, go this far? No. And at the end of the day, you know, fans are entitled to their opinion. I also think there's fans out there, like, you know, for different reasons that they're giving Postecoglou slightly longer rope to hang himself than what other people are to a degree. You know, like you've got someone like me who's seen what he's done at Celtic. You know, I'm well aware of Postecoglou's history. It works if you do things his way. However, I'm also of the understanding that results can't keep going like this in the league, and at some point there has to be a change in manager. You know, if he doesn't win everything on the weekend, just quickly as well, though, Sava, you know, you've also got fans that just don't want to change because Tottenham keep going into this perpetual cycle of every 16 to 18 months chopping and changing direction. We never seem to come out of it. So you have fans that are willing to give Postecoglou a bit longer in that regard there as well. And then also, let's be honest, the Cups have kept him in the job this long. If we went out of the Carabao Cup the same time we did last season, he would already be out of a job, because the reality is, everyone on this panel, I've heard everyone speak, and most of the Spurs fan base, everyone's speaking about that they want to win trophies at Tottenham Hotspur. And, you know, that's why he's being held in the job, because he's still in the Cups and he still has a chance of delivering a trophy. So there's multiple reasons why he's still in this job. Whether it's right or wrong, but there is multiple reasons why he's in the job. Or why people are willing to give him. At the end of the day, Sava, I know what you're saying about I understand what you're saying about the fans and that, but it's the board that make the decision, Sava, not the fans.
I know it is, but the problem, if look, when West Ham were doing badly, West Ham fans made it very vocally clear they didn't want a shit manager at their club, right? So did Man United. Our fans are singing his name when we're 5-1 down. The levels of there's no standards at this football club, right? There's no standards at all at this football club. The worst statistical manager we've ever had, and we're sitting here going 5-1. Ange Postecoglou. What do you mean? I'll be screaming at him, Ange. Stop letting Liverpool run through us. We don't want to be 5-1 down. But I just want to counter a few points because I need to.
How much is them out enjoying the day, though, Savan? You know, because wings are so far and few between, they're getting caught up in the moment.
Caught up in the moment of being 5-1 down?
Just winning a game of football. You're saying, you know, after winning games, they're singing. I mean, what do you want a support to sit there and do? Boo after winning the game. How much of that is fans getting behind, you know, getting carried away because they're enjoying the victory? Are they not allowed to do that?
Dave, but that's not what I said. I said we were 5-1 down and they're singing his name. It's nothing to do with winning. Look, I've got to shoot off in 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm gonna just rattle a couple of points. So first and foremost, I think, Dave, you've done what a lot of Spurs fans do there. You're conflating two very different things. You're conflating, which manager comes in, and I know you always do this. I see you do this. We always chuck in Conte and Jose into the Ange mix. First and foremost, Conte and Jose are superior to this PE teacher. They are superior. Second of all, right?
So Postecoglou has no CV behind him. No CV of winning then.
You can't compare it to them two.
Not to their not to
that level. But yeah, he's not as bad as you make out. You go to the Australian. If you went to the Australian League, you make it out like it's shit. If you went to the Australian League, I guarantee you wouldn't win a trophy. Same with the Japanese League. So you got to put some respect on it.
Dave, I don't have to put any respect on it because my football club, Tottenham, don't play in the Australian League or the Scottish League. We play in the Premier League, right? So when we're talking about, but Jose and Conte never did this. We keep doing this.
You were Conte out. You were on about his style of football. It was miserable and everything else.
Dave, let me finish the sentence.
No, but I don't want to hear you sit there and back up Conte and Jose when you also wanted them out of the football club.
Dave, if you let me finish my sentence, Dave, if you let me finish my sentence, you'll realise what you're saying there is absolute nonsense, right?
It's not.
I wasn't backing up Conte. What I'm saying is, Conte, I don't like Conte per se. And again, anyone that's streamed with me enough will know I said from the first moment of him signing at this club, there's no point Conte being at Tottenham Hotspur. There's no point. He signed an 18-month deal. We're never going to give him the top players he needs. And that's how it panned out. After the first year at Tottenham Hotspur, it started, didn't it? The Conte-Levy divide, it was always going to come. But that's a man with a top CV that wins things. Now, if he had come in and Levy had gone, there you go, there's 5-6 top players, go and win something, I'll shut up, won't worry about the football and go, that's a winner. Jose Mourinho, top manager, done it in every league in the world, right? I'm not going to ever put this manager into the same bracket when talking about managers. Second of all, those managers came in and were nowhere near doing as badly as this shit manager. This is the difference. We keep saying, Conte this, Jose this. I don't remember Conte being 14th in the league. I don't remember Jose being 14th in the league. I don't remember those two managers having a 1.14 point per game average. I don't remember them losing 11 games in 21 games, 11 in 21 in a season. So, when we keep conflating the arguments, the point is this. Do we all want a manager that's going to come in and win a league? Do we all want a manager that's going to come in and win a league? Of course, not going to happen, right? At the moment, we keep saying that. Who's going to come in? Who's going to do this, right? At the moment, we just need a manager that comes in that is a proper coach that will stabilise this football team and that won't make us embarrassed every single Saturday or Sunday because we can't win games of football and we are so wide open. Pundits, ex-managers, ex-pros, TalkSport, Sky, BT, they are all mocking us because of how bad this manager is. And the argument has suddenly gone, all the same people, Dave, not you, because me and you streamed a lot, and I've got 60 seconds, I've got to go, right? Right. All of the same people now, though, this is what frustrates the life out of me, and I'll let Dan finish this off when I'm gone, because he knows my feelings on this. All the same people doing the videos that knew our squad in the summer. They knew our squad, Dave. They knew what our transfer window was. Going, you watch Ange's second season, watch what he does. The team gets better. They learn his tactics. He's defensively more sound. We've gone worse and worse and worse and worse. And last thing I'll say, I've really got to go. My wife's going to tell me off and I'm going to be divorced, right? The last thing I'll say is this. This whole injury excuse, I need people to look at the facts with and without the injuries. People have got to do that. We were losing to Ipswich, to Palace, not beating Leicester with all of our first team players fit. And Bournemouth are 10 points clear of us with more injuries than Tottenham Hotspur. I've really got to go. Love you. Love
Right.
you, Dave.
Thank you, Sav. Thank you, Sav.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
big up, Sav.
Thank
Right,
you.
if anyone hasn't, there's Sava's link. I'm sure you've all subscribed to Sava and all the rest of them on it. We are the minnows.
And by the way, make sure you do get over and check out Sav. It's a great content creator.
Yeah.
But just
Mark, can I come back on something Dave said before? When we're talking about Conte and Mourinho, I can't. For me, Conte came in. Let's just use Conte as a out of the two because it was an 18-month situation. Conte's in for 18 months. Back him. If he's going to go in 18 months, he's going to go in 18 months. But back him. Let him improve the first team. Let him do his best to win a trophy, which is a good foundation. If he's going to leave in 18 months, for him to walk away and you say, right, the playing squad's better. We've had a crack. We're getting competitive. Because we're getting competitive, other players that we may want are seeing this, so they are then going to be more likely to come to Spurs than players now. Because players now, I mean, in this window, who's going to want to come? Seriously, what's the USP? If you're seeing a player, Dan, what's your USP to make them say, great, yes, I'm going to pick you in front of, say, for Moani, not saying he's the right person. Personally, I'd go and get Liam Delap from Ipswich. But Moani, you've got a choice of Man U, Juventus, and Tottenham. So you've got two juggernauts with fantastic history of trophies, and then you got Tottenham. So what chance have we got? And the longer this goes on, with these owners making this football club on the footballing side more and more irrelevant, the harder it's going to be to get back up there and get the players that we need to strengthen the squad and take us there.
But Ian, this is the
manager as well.
This is the point that I'm trying to make. You know, maybe I'll come across a little bit wrong. Like, I agree with a lot of what people are saying about Postecoglou, about him not willing to change certain things to be able to get points on the board. He's digging his own grave in that regard. But I do think we're getting to the point where people are blaming absolutely everything on Postecoglou. And when he goes out the door, people are going to start talking about what I'm about to highlight and what you've just highlighted there. The reality is Postecoglou wasn't back with proper players in the summer to really sort of try and kick on. They didn't really fill the squad holes. Now, we can keep making the mistake with the manager and asking him to adapt to what the club aren't doing for them. Or we can at least, if Postecoglou does go, move on going forward, you've got to fill these squad positions. Start demanding a lot more from the board. Because the reality is, a lot of what's going on right now is because of what we didn't do in the summer. Coming out of last season, we finished 5th. All we had to do was sprinkle it with some players ready for the here and now. The only one we brought in was Dom Solanke to try and help the situation. The rest we brought in to be periphery on the squad. You know, Postecoglou speaking about trophies, that's what they've done. And I'm not comparing them to Jose and Conte to a degree at that level. But when you look at all three of their CVs, Tottenham Hotspur is the common denominator in all three. There has to be something said for that as well. That's at Tottenham Hotspur where their careers are going wrong, or where their careers has took a turning point. You know, because when they leave Tottenham Hotspur, we go, every manager's clueless, he can't do this, he can't do that. But we're not hiring adaptive managers. So if we're not hiring managers that are known for that, then we're hiring managers that are steadfast for their philosophy. The club have to go and back that. There's no point in leaving them short and going, well, you've got to make this work with this, that, and the other, because they're never going to do it. So we're setting them up for failure. When it comes down to injuries, I don't buy it either. You know, when you go into a competition or when you go into a season and you've got 4 competitions to play for, anyone watches the Newcastle documentary on Amazon, you know, and with all the money they've got, they've obviously put the right money into the research. They were speaking in one of the very first episodes about it, about the players are going to incur a lot more injuries going from a season with no Europe into a season with Europe because of the workload, more training, more games, more traveling, etc., etc. So you need to fill out your squad. You need to fill out your squad and have a much bigger squad to operate in. Again, we didn't fill the squad out for that properly this season. So some of the stuff we are incurring is because of what the club haven't done. And I think there's a need. If Postecoglou's on his last legs, it's only a matter of time, whether it's now, whether it's February, he's gone. But there does have to be a realization. You can't put everything on the guy. If we really want change at this football club moving forward, there has to be fair conversations around the guy. What is his problem? What isn't? But what I'm seeing is everyone's starting to put everything on him. And I can't get with that because I don't think it serves the right purpose for what we need going forward as a football club.
I get where you're coming across, Dave. Thanks, sitting. I get where you're coming across here. I'll make you right on a few things you said. Look, let's just put this blunt and blatant. We all know Daniel Levy is the cancer of this club. Period. End of. Yeah. I know some people don't like to admit it or whatever. Some people think he's good, whatever. Well, each their own, whatever turns you on at the end of the day. We all know what this fella is, and he is the main problem. Yeah. But Conte did not get backed.
No,
Ange been backed
not.
more than any manager that has ever
but guys,
been
to
at this
what
club.
degree?
Yeah.
I hear the money.
I'll tell you.
That's
16 new players. 16 new players he's had, yeah. He's basically had over a year and a half build, focus on that team he's got, and he's only had one extra player go into that first 11 as a striker, and still none of those players look any better playing his style of play. He has been backed with the money. Okay, this transfer window was absolutely, this transfer window was abysmal. No two ways about it. But again, how many people were bigging it up and everything? I'd say the majority was bigging it up on how great it was. I know you weren't, but I know that a majority was saying how great it was. Look how spectacular this was when we got Timo Werner for the second fucking time. And with that, Ange has done himself no favours by what he goes and says. Now I get it. He's got his little book that all managers have to say their certain things. But talk about shoot yourself in the foot. I'm surprised my man can walk anymore. He's shot himself in the foot so many times. I'm surprised he's got feet left. A majority of what he goes and says, he doesn't have to say it. And he's going to put it even more on his back. Because what do you do to the fella? Do you just sit there and just say, oh, he's leaving his little bitch and he's just doing what he's told to say? Or do you treat him like a man and say, right, I'm going to take you as a man. I'm going to show you the common courtesy. I'm going to hold you to your word. I know there's a few things you have to say, but you've gone and said excess amount as well. Okay. Talk is talk. Now walk the walk. He ain't walking nowhere. My man can't even walk at the minute. And he's done himself no bloody favours. We all know the problem at this club is Levy. We all know that. But Ange has done no favours whatsoever. He doesn't adapt to his style of play. The only reason Spence, Gray, Bergvall, even Reguilon got a look on the pitch is because we're so injured. Maybe if he would have had the football knowledge or the football brains to adapt early on in the season and rotate the team a little bit, instead of playing the players to the point where they're literally crippled by his style of play, maybe we wouldn't even be in this situation. This, for me, is where it comes back to Ange. But the bigger circle, I'll make you 1,000,000% right. We all know what the big problem is.
100%. Just quickly, and I know Ian wants to come back in on me as well there, and not disrespectfully. I know it's all respectful, and I know that, guys. Just on two things you said there, Dan. Look, I get about the backing, but again, there has to be context around it. You know, people are saying, 400 million spent. Yeah, but how many of them players have been bought for the here and now to impact? Second of all, it was always going to be this amount of players because we needed to rebuild a whole new team, which comes with, the ups and downs, the trials and the tribulations and stuff like that. And it's also about timing. Last January when Postecoglou needed help, we brought in Timo fucking Werner and Radu Dragusin. This summer when he needed help, the only real player we brought in to really help alleviate the situation at the time was Dominic Solanke. Now I think Johan Lang is getting a complete free pass here. I think he didn't deliver last January. He hasn't delivered in the summer, and he hasn't delivered so far this January, despite Tottenham's urgency. And he's not as good as an operator as Paratici. I don't want to hear anyone make excuses about budgets and stuff, because Paratici was able to operate within that, plus get loans with obligations to buy and stretch it even further. So I genuinely don't think Johan Lang has the know-how to get the right players in here to help this project going forward. And then lastly, on the point about the press conferences, I fully understand what you're saying, and I fully get it, right? He's digging himself a grave. But I also think there has to be an understanding is, if he goes against the club, like what Conte did with the Spence thing, we all know how it's going to end. So if he wants to stay in the job and try and make it work, which is ultimately what he's tried to do to a certain degree, he has to come out and sort of toe the club line. This whole narrative that he's a yes man is absolutely horseshit. If you want to keep your job and put it in any context in life, You're going to be a yes man to your boss at the end of the day, you know.
Of course you
So, and you know, when Conte made, you know, said what he said, there was a large element of the fan base that said, you can't do that at the football club. You got to take responsibility. Where's your responsibility? So Andrew's out there taking responsibility now, and then in the same breath, he's getting battered for doing it. And this is where I'm saying, you know,
it's the excess. What he said, though, Dave, it's the excess amount. He said the basics that we all know a manager has to say, but then the excess amount that he's put on himself. Not okay. I get the point that he says I picked these players, whether he did or didn't. But then he goes and repeats himself over about what 1, 2, 3, 4 different times that he didn't even have to mention that, but he brings it up. He's the one who blatantly stands there and probably said it at the worst club in the planet. I always win in my second season. Okay, he didn't necessarily say we are gonna win in my second season, but well, how much blood do you want to put in front of a vampire? Because we are all that desperate for bloody trophies that everybody pounced on him for it straight away, and he's literally holding him to it again. And with other things he's gone and said as well.
I'm not saying though.
I mean, what last bit I'll mention with it, yeah? What, and I'll say it straight, what idiot comes out with after you've just drawn a game by the skin of your teeth that you should have won that and says, but it was entertaining. Or goes and makes a dickhead comment like, oh, but I didn't make the subs because we didn't deserve them. Was that on the book as well?
No, look, don't get me wrong. I do think some of the times, you know, he goes a bit far. But that whole I win in my second season, that wasn't I'm going to deliver trophies at Tottenham. He's telling journalists, regardless of what your narrative you're painting about me, look at my CV. I win in my second season, which he's not lying about.
It just wasn't the best thing to say in front of a load of Spurs supporters, was it?
And then, look, maybe not, but it's not his fault. You know, we are the way we are. That, you know, we're so starved of trophy. You know, that everyone's so angry around the football club. That's not his fault at the end of the day. And lastly, one more thing, and then I do want to let Ian in, and I will shut up. On the Reguilon thing. Come on, guys. It's not just Postecoglou that refused to use him. Jose did at a certain point, and same did Conte. You know, so to batter Postecoglou for not picking Reguilon when other managers refuse to do so, I think is, again, the wrong route to go down. Why is Reguilon still at this football club if he hasn't been used by past managers? And now all of a sudden Postecoglou's in a situation going where they should use him. You also got to remember, if you're a manager and you're trying to do things your way and you're trying to change things, he deemed Reguilon not good enough last season. So the fact that the club never went out and got someone from to use in that position, and now the fans are going, he's got to use Reguilon. It's unfair on him. The conversation
but when you're 4-0 up, when you're 4-0 up, shouldn't you be saying, right, I'm 4-0 up, whether I like the player or not, yeah? I need to rest that player because he's a star player of mine. We're 4-0 up. We're not going to lose the game. Right. Reguilon get on there, or Spence get on there. Bring on Mikey Moore up there. Bring on whoever else when we're 3-0 up against Man U or whatever, or 4-0 or 5-0 up against Southampton. And he still goes and plays Kulusevski or Son or whoever else, or Porro or whatever, or Doji, and run them into the ground. There was many a time he could have made better decisions.
But for all we know, behind the scenes, he's saying, I want this, this, and this. The club aren't delivering. And when he's already deemed the player not good enough, I'm not being funny. If I'm going into another season, I ain't using them either. What good is it? Because then you're showing the board that you are willing to adapt to what they, you know, to the circumstance they put you in. And then all of a sudden they start pulling, you know, fast ones in front of you all the time. They start not addressing certain areas. We've all been here. We've been Spurs fans for a long time to know this happens. So at some point, he's got to stick to his guns, whether fans like it or not, to try and get what he needs. And I do. Right. These are things that I don't think are brought up in the Ange Postecoglou conversations enough. I'm not sitting here defending the guy. At the end of the day, he's digging his own grave. He's not changing tactically, and he's not adapting to the situation we're in to a certain degree. But there also has to be a recognition. If we want to kick on as a football club, we can't keep battering the managers for things that should have been fixed by the club when they had the opportunity to.
I totally get that one. Last thing I mentioned here, Ian, because I keep saying my bit as well.
I was just going to say, we ain't heard from Eugene yet, so carry on, Dan, and we'll get Eugene in.
Again, I get what you're saying, yeah? But you're talking about he has to, like what you said earlier, he has to say what he wants to say because he has to go with the flow and he wants to keep his job. Well, if my man wants to keep his job, he's got to go and get some points for this bloody club and win because that is his job. And when he blatantly knows he's only got a set of cards he can play with, he doesn't want to use that one and that one. But if he doesn't use them two, then that one's going to end up busted. That one's going to end up out for 2 months. That one's now out for 3 months, twice. That one's now got a problem. He's now screwed himself over 10 times more. I totally see what you mean. We want better players there and that. But when it comes down to that crunch, surely any manager, if he's got the experience and whatever and knows how to win, he's going to sit there and just say, we're 3-0, 4-0 up. I can't stand the player, but he's blatantly knackered. He's got to come off. Otherwise, just like the other 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now, his hamstring's going to go. I mean, when has Ben Davies ever had a hamstring problem, for God's sake? And you've just got to adapt to what you've got, and he just don't do it. And you're saying he wants to keep his job. He's not doing a bloody good job of it.
Well, right now, Ian,
and that's the last I say.
Fans think the board are backing him. So, I mean, I get what you're saying there, Dan, but at the end of the day, the board's still backing him. It's the rumours that are out.
Fair point.
So he's keeping his job. He's still in the job.
Right, Ian, do you want to come in or Eugene come in?
I should just say a couple of things. Firstly, in terms of who's to blame for this whole malaise at the club, I split it 3 ways. I mean, the big problem, the macro problem, is the owners who have never shown any intentions or commitment to building the footballing side in 24 years. You think about it, by now, even if you have a few bumps along the way, we started off mid-table under Ealing and we're now back at mid-table. So, it's gone full circle with one trophy. In terms of this is Angie's team, let me bust that myth completely. Because I made a list of all the players and who was here before Ange and which players have been selected by Ange, starting with Maddison and Mickey. Because if you look at the team that he would pick if everybody was fit before he turned up, all these players were agreed before Ange came. You're looking at Vicario, Romero, Porro, Udogi, Basuma, Bentancur, Sarr, Kulusevski, Son, and Richarlison. And I'm sort of putting players in that are sort of there or thereabouts, who he's maybe got 14 or 15 players that he basically looks on as ahead of the rest. In terms of the players that he has brought in, I've got, including Werner twice, including Kinski, he had brought 15 players in. Of those 15, let's knock out Solomon, let's knock out Phillips, and let's knock out Veliz. So we're now down to 12. Okay, let's knock out Yang because he hasn't even played, so we're talking 11. Odebear's played 72 minutes, so we're down to 10. And Kinski's just joined, so we're down to 9. Werner twice, so you've got 8 actual players. Of the players that are first teamers, you've got Van der Ven, Johnson, Solanke, and Maddison's in and out. So you've got 3.5 there out of 13, 14, 15. That's all you've got from who Ange has brought in. As well as, and I think the transfer window in the summer was ultimately disappointing and poor, because, as you said, Dave, we got rid. I mean, we got rid of 16 players off the wage bill in the summer. You've got European games as well. We've gone further by at least what have we got? Last year it was 1 game in the League Cup. This year we've had 4 already. It could be 5, possibly 6. So there's an extra 4/5 games. Plus the FA Cup, we go out to Villa. That's the same as last year, 4th round. So the players that they bought in the summer, Odebear, Yang, forget for the minute. That leaves 3 that I think by the end of the season are all going to be established in the first team in Solanke, Bergvall, and Gray. And I've said this all along, that if he gave them the chance, Bergvall and Gray would be established first teamers by the end of the season, and I stick by that. So Dragusin, squad player. Werner, squad player. Where are we? Bergvall and Gray originally were bought for squad players. So you've literally got, you look at his first 14, 15 players that he would pick if everybody was fit. And you got 3 plus Maddison. So this whole thing about this is Angie's team, this isn't Angie's team. This is Ange's system. And what he's done is that you're looking at players like Porro and Udogie, who were bought by Conte going forwards. Udogie was agreed before Conte had that rant. They were bought as wing backs to play in a system and replace Doherty and Sessegnon. So you had your three. So this team is built for a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. And as Dan said, you got to play the cards that you're dealt, that you've got. And you've got to play the players in the system that suits the players. You can't say, this is my system. I've been successful in three inferior, let's call them inferior leagues. Let's not be disrespectful because he's been successful in them, Dave. But I'm sure you'll agree that when you compare the leagues that he's been successful in compared to the leagues that Conte and Mourinho were successful in, I'm sure you agree there's a chasm between the
100%.
The leagues.
Right.
Which I think is what Slav was getting at more than anything about disrespectful to.
No, I get that, but there also has to be recognition on the likewise. You look at the three CVs, Tottenham is the common denominator, and there has to be something said for that we're not getting it right. And it goes back to my original point. If they're building a squad for a 3 at the back or a 5 at the back, whatever way people want to dress it up, why bring in Postecoglou when he's playing 4 at the back? In the interview, he would have told him, he would have laid out exactly how he's going to play, the way he wants to play. That would have been 4 out the backs. And then why bring him in here? And then if you are, why not give him the players to make your system work then? And this is my...
I agree with you.
Right. Can we just welcome... Right. 1 minute in. Right. Can I just welcome Eugene to the show? Big up, mate. How are you? I know you haven't spoke for 10 minutes since you've been on it. Right. What did you think of the game last night? And then we can... Well, there's a question now that we got to get to. Look, but how did you see the game last night?
Question. Can I curse on this channel or are we keeping it clean?
Yeah, you do what you like, mate. You do what you like.
I'm fuming. So, hey, Ian, Dave and I, we spoke. Ian and I, we talk in WhatsApp. But first of all, I'm fuming. But based on this discussion, there are two things that have been consistent throughout the past decade with different managers. Number one is, as fans, we argue if a manager is backed because we have no idea who makes the signings since they don't make sense. And second is the players are downing tools, right? So when I commented earlier about me not thinking tactics were important, my point is in a derby against Arsenal, regardless of the tactics, senior players have to put in a shift and show passion. And I'm okay with that. If you look at the game last night or over the weekend, the kids, Bergvall, Gray, and Spence were the only ones that I saw were not afraid and they were actually trying to make something happen. Son was shocking. Porro, we know he can defend, but if he cannot put in a cross, why even play him? He was terrible. People make excuses for Madison. People say, well, Madison is not being played in the right way. He should be a 10. He should have, all the space and freedom. Every time I watch him play, other than 2 or 3 games, he's been useless. He came on over the weekend as the most creative player who needs to make something happen. He didn't do anything. So our senior players, I'm okay with mistakes, but they're showing no passion whatsoever. So when we talk about tactics, great. But I feel like it doesn't matter what the tactics are when the players are playing scared, when they're hiding from the ball, when Bergvall is the only midfielder in the last 3 games who takes the ball and pushes the ball, when Bissouma is hiding, Sarri is hiding, Madison is hiding, Son, I don't know what Son is doing. That's an issue for me. So yes, Ange has his issues. Yes, he's rigid sometimes. My biggest issue is his squad management, not including Spence and Reggie perhaps. Yes, he has the issues. But when people start talking about, oh, he's been backed more than anybody else. Oh, his hands are in his pockets. Oh, he talks too much in press conferences. I feel like we're scapegoating another manager, which, okay, fine. Angie's going to leave tomorrow. We're going to bring in another mid-table manager, our fourth choice, because we all know managers like Nagelsmann, Slot, Amorim are not coming in. A manager's going to come in. Half of the squad was built for Conte. Half of the squad is built for Ange. And we only shop in the loan aisle. We only look either for players who have 1 year left on their deal, who are cheap, or players on loan. That's it. We're not looking to bring anybody else. Right now, we're struggling. We're barely afloat. And we still have not brought in anybody. And you can say, well, the board doesn't want to back Ange because he might be sacked. That's fair. But we have a director of football. So director of football sets the direction for the club. Whether Ange is in charge or not, we should know what types of players we want. So not bringing anybody in other than a backup keeper is unacceptable. Ange has been asking for players from the beginning of the window. We didn't bring anybody in. Ange has been asking for 2 offensive players in the summer. We brought in Sloan Kiet. It started last year when we sold Sanchez, and Ange said we need 2 defenders. We didn't bring anybody in the summer. With all the injuries, we were losing games, and we brought in Dragoshin in January. So the way we back managers is unacceptable. We cut wages, right? All that money that's being spent, you have to look at how much teams around us spend, right? So it's relative. But again, I don't want to digress, but talking about the game specifically, the
quick
players
question for you then.
Right, quick one-word answers for this. Quick one, because I'm about 10 minutes behind in the comments. I have a question for the panel. If we lose against Everton, would you sack him? I'll go first. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
should have been
2.
done. Should have been done 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Ian?
Yes, I just don't think it's happening for him. I think the whole thing is wrong, and you're gonna keep losing players to injury.
Yeah.
Which is going to unsettle the team. It stops partnerships being formed. It's unsustainable the way he pushes the players. I spoke to a sports therapist before the Spurs Wolves game, and she was saying that the training mirrors the matches, because that's what Ange wants. Said the players' bodies are being pushed too far, and that's why they're breaking down.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Dave?
Look, for me, I think even if he draws, I think he's got to go, to be honest with you. I think it's got to be a win or bust.
Yeah. Yeah. Eugene?
I agree with Dave. Unfortunately, he has to go again, regardless whether it's on him, it's his fault or not. If we can't beat Everton, it is what it is. Yeah. He's got to go. And we'll have Ryan Mason in charge. I'm pumped.
Or Southgate.
And what about you, the other Mark? The other Mark?
Oh, for me, he's got to go, Mark. I'm more of a... Whereas Ian and Dave look further into it, I'm looking at what I'm watching on the pitch, and just for me, his lack of, if you want to call it, in-game management, tactics, how he sets the team up. And I'm sitting there watching it second half yesterday, and we are getting absolutely battered with 3 attacking midfielders on in the second half. Bergvall running his arse off, trying to cover the old pitch. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand it. I don't know if he had any other options to change it yesterday, but you go in 2-1 at half time. To me, it didn't even like half of them were even bothered. You know, you had Gray doing his bit, you had Bergvall doing his bit, Spence was doing what he could on the other side, but there was just no, I think someone used a word earlier, passion, might have been Eugene. Yeah. There's just no passion in it. And I want to see players, even if they're not of the best of ability, that want to play for Spurs because of that. Because of that badge.
Not any of the players.
For us because it's for Spurs.
Not any of the players yesterday understood what the North London derby was. They didn't. They didn't.
I agree. But the question I'll ask on it then, Eugene, for you, mate. What are the best games would you say we've played this season?
We
Where
play
we've actually
best
played best?
when teams play wide open against
No.
us.
What games?
City,
What games? Who
Villa,
against?
City, United, Everton, first
West
Everton
Ham,
game.
Villa.
Yeah,
Right.
West Ham,
And-
5 games maybe.
And out of those 4 games, what did we not do?
I mean, I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say
What am I going to say?
that we don't invert the fullbacks.
Right. And in
We
those
did
games, we
once
looked
against
best.
City only.
But here's the
Against
hypocrisy.
Liverpool, we didn't invert it. Man U, we didn't invert it. West Ham, we only used 1 at a time because we even had 3 at the back at times, same as City, because only 1 was going forward. And then with Man City, we done it the second time as well. The games we have played best, we've either had only 1 wing back going forward and inverting, which was City, and the other games, neither of them did it.
Well, here's my problem.
You
with
could
that.
blatantly see that was half the problem solved, and that is when
He
we played
switches it up
best.
though, Dan.
When
Here's
you
my
go and
problem
get
with-
players, last bit I put on it, when you go and get players, you can get a bang average team. You go and play everyone to their right way, what they are best at, how they know how to play, because they're maybe not the most capable player out there mentally, yeah? Because I think there is a problem with some of our players understanding the football compared to what you get with other players, yeah? So you go and put every player and play that system to what matches the players. And you can make a very average team look like a very, very good team. You go and do the total opposite, you can make a very good team look like a very, very crap team. A different manager comes in and uses the right tactics for these players and stops telling them to do stupid things like he does with a goalkeeper that nearly screwed up 3 times yesterday when you can see he's not meant to be doing that crap. Or when we start getting the defender to put some long balls over the top instead of trying to tippy-tappy out, all of a sudden, we look like a different team.
So
and then Ange goes back to square one.
Let me ask you, are you saying when we win, Ange's adapting, when we lose, he's not adapting? It can't be both.
I said the best games.
Because the argument, a lot of the
we
arguments,
played.
and I've heard, earlier on before I joined, people were saying he's stubborn, he doesn't change. But now all of a sudden, the games that we've won, you're saying he's adapted. I'm sorry, I don't buy that argument. You can't play him winning going, oh, he's adapted. But then every time he loses, you go, he won't adapt, he's stubborn.
The City games, we had no option. They pushed us right back. Yesterday, we was not playing counter-attacking football. They pushed us right back. Liverpool, they pushed us right back. Whereas I have actually seen him and said in things, I think he actually did adapt it because we weren't using the inverted wing backs. But then when it goes to the next game and we're blatantly doing it and they're in the number 10 position and Maddison can't pass left, right, forward, centre or back because everyone's 6 foot of him, you then think, did we get forced to play that way? Or did Ange adapt it? And you just don't actually know. But the games we have actually played the best in, not just the ones we've won, but the ones we've played best, is when all of a sudden either he has adapted it or they've made us play without using the inverted wing backs. I don't know what one to take it on that aspect.
I don't think it's to do with him adapting. I think when you look at a lot of our victories this year, they've come against the big teams. The big teams don't show Tottenham any respect. They come out and play, they leave their back line open. And the system, the way we play works to cut them open. We take advantage of it. The problem is the games we lose, a lot of it is when teams sit in. Even Newcastle and Arsenal, when they're winning, now they sit in and say, break us down. The reason why they're doing that is because, and I said this years ago, when the time about Harry Kane coming and saying, and I said, guys, I wouldn't be so quick to jump on getting rid of Harry Kane just because he wants to leave. I'm more in the camp that we should get him to stay. And the reason why I said that is because once he goes, I don't back the club to spend the money adequately. And also, Son's getting older. He's going to be in decline. I don't back the club to have someone ready for when that happens. And when them two things combine, you will see us veer towards a relegation battle. Anyone can fact check me. I went and said this 2 years ago on my channel, and we're getting to that point. The problem is when we face against low block team, we spend the Harry Kane money on relegation fodder. We brought in Udebert from Burnley, Maddison from a relegated Leicester, Johnson from a Nottingham Forest that were staving relegation, and Dominic Solanke from Bournemouth, who were lower half of the Premier League for much of his time there. The problem is, we brought in an attacking manager with an attacking system, and we gave him relegation fodder to play, to work with after selling the club's best striker. We didn't replace, even if the Harry Kane wanted to leave, you've got to replace him adequately and bring in the best players you can. And now we're paying the price for it. And the problem we've got is now when we set up against low blocks, because we've got bang average players who weren't the solution for their clubs when they were trying to stave off these relegation battles, they lack in the fundamentals of the game and they don't have the nous to break down these teams. And often that's why you see the horseshoe football. It's far from Ange Postecoglou football, because when Johnson gets the ball, because he can't beat his man or cross a ball, he always has to come back with it. Same when Werner plays on the other side, or when Son's getting double teamed, the same thing, he has to come back with it. So for me, the problem is the quality of player. I think even if you bring in another manager, I think people will see the severe lack of quality in the forward line going forward, even when you bring in a new manager.
Dave, we're seeing it now.
I can't argue with.
Agree.
If we played, one question I'll ask, if we played a different formation and played with, say, 5 at the back or 3 at the back, what anyone wants to call it, yeah? But let's say we play a 3-4-1-2. You look at these players and you look at a 3-4-1-2. Dragusin in the middle, when we've got the full team there. Van de Ven to come out on the left if he needs to, Romero there. There's your defence sorted. You've even got the man who can come forward and cover it as an old school centre back, even move into a DM if he has to. You've then got Porro, Udogie doing their jobs. Did anyone watch Udogie in Italy? I watched him a lot of games in Italy. I follow Italy. What did he do? Game in, game out, overlap.
You're asking a manager to go to a back five that he's never played in his life.
This is what I'm saying. But Porro on the right, what did he do at Sporting Lisbon? Okay, Ange didn't ask for him. Overlapping, couldn't get the ball in enough. Basuma, how has he always played? Okay, he's covered DM a couple of times at Brighton. If he's such a poor player, like everyone says, then why is it at Brighton Liverpool was willing to pay 70 million for him and they wanted 85 million for him? Because he totally dominated Liverpool, Man City, Man U, Arsenal, Spurs, and countless other clubs by playing as his forward box-to-box man, not so much focusing on the back. And then we've got an option of who we can put next to it. Stick Maddison in front, and then you've got an option of Johnson or Son on the left of it with Solanke playing the target man. Does that not look 10 times better for the players we got?
This is not Football Manager, Dan. That's not how it works. I'm sorry.
No? So putting the players in their right positions isn't how it works then?
No,
how come Pep Guardiola can totally change his position? How comes he can totally change tactics?
Eugene, do you not think Johnson is an inside forward?
I agree.
He's not a winger.
Not fit.
He's certainly not a winger, is he? He's certainly not a winger.
He's not a winger. Son is not a winger. I agree.
How many times has Arteta changed his formation? Like when they come and played against us in the first game, totally changed the formation and the style of play. So that can't be done. Yeah. Or is this football manager?
I don't think he changed the formation. He
totally changed his whole system. He changed his whole system.
But we're not hiring them sort of managers, and that's the thing. We're asking a man, like fans are asking managers to do something that they're not known for doing. And, you know, again, this comes back to the problem with the football club. We get ourselves into this situation because we're not doing what they're asking them to do. You know, Postecoglou wasn't known for his flexibility. Neither was Conte, neither was Jose Mourinho. But all of a sudden, everyone's asking them to be flexible. We're placing unfair demands on them. And to Eugene's point, I fully understand the point you're making, Dan, that, you know, when you look at the squad, it probably is best suited to a back five. But then if the club know that, sack Postecoglou tomorrow and bring in a manager that is going to play like that. When Postecoglou went for the job, he told them, I'm playing a back four. When the managers go for interviews, you have to allow how they're going to play, their philosophy, what they need, etc., etc. It's all compiled into one document for this interview. You know, and the reality is they knew he was going to play a back four. So they haven't helped, you know, implement that. And this is the biggest problem. Now, all of a sudden, people are going, well, he's got to play a back five. And it's like, this is the problem at top. We're never going to get out of this.
He doesn't even play a back four, Dave. He plays a back two.
He plays a back two. Dave, the problem you've got, the big problem is you've got a chairman. You've got a chairman with no football knowledge who has brought in Scott Munn, who is not a football person. And Scott Munn has not done his due diligence. And because he knows Ange, because they're both Australian and their paths are crossed, he's brought Postecoglou in. And why has he brought him in? Probably Nagelsmann didn't get the gig. Slot didn't want the gig. Neither of them did. Yeah. You know, so I don't know how many others they are. So in the end, you end up with somebody who is patently unsuitable for the Premier League, for his training methods, for his in-game management, for lack of rotation. Now, all of this should have been checked before he joined. So it's not his fault he's got the gig. He's got this. He's on $5 million a year. I think he's got a 4-year contract, is it? So for him, you know, it's manna from heaven. Thank you very much. I'm 58, 59. I've got one big payday here, and then I'm going to probably retire. Who knows, at 62, 63. if he lasts that long at the club. So it's from the top all the way down. So this is why we end up with a manager that's completely unsuitable in every single aspect. And we're a team of moments. You know, when the team click, it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you can blow teams away. But it's so rare, and it's only against certain clubs. It's not consistent, it's unsustainable. And what you've ended up now, once you've taken out the new manager bounce, where he took everybody by surprise in the first 10 games of last season, since then, it's been dire. The results were, you know, it was like snakes and ladders earlier in the season. Up and down, up and win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. Now, it's literally since Man City, we've won 1, drawn 2 with Fulham and Wolves, and lost the rest. We've lost 6
Ian,
now.
it shows how much those first 10 games covered our arse last season.
Absolutely. It was the worst possible thing that could have happened.
Without
Because
those first 10 games, would we have been 5th? Not a chance in hell. We'd have
Not
been
a
close
shot.
to where
We
we
would
are
have
now.
finished 11th down, I think.
Exactly.
11th or 12th.
And one other thing on it, people go on about the players, how they're inadequate, not as good as people say and whatever. Well, if the players are meant to learn this bloody system and adapt and totally change their style of play, which I can name 1, 2, 3, I can name about 8 players that play on a regular basis there, that he's been trying to adapt to his style of play for 18 months now, bar one of them, Solanke. If they're expected to do it, then shouldn't he also be expected to adapt his way as well? Now, Dave, I'll make you right. I'll stand back on this on totally changing the formation. We can sit here and see this formation would work better, what I said, but the way he works, he's not going to change his whole system. Fine. But what a good manager has to do is adapt on a gamely basis. Certain little tweaks you have to make in that game. And the example I just always give, it's an easy one. When you know you've got Salah coming down that left-hand side, what do you do to 2 of your players? Right, double him up, and then you work out the rest of the pitch. What does Ange do? No, same way, play the same way. He can blatantly see that certain things are not working with a lot of players. So shouldn't he have to adapt at least halfway and meet what he's got halfway? Not just Ange way or the highway, because it's not working.
No, look.
So Dan, look.
Go on, Eugene. Sorry, go on. I've said enough.
You know, I'm saying I don't disagree with you on the tweaks, but you were talking about formations. Look, when you were talking about Arteta or Pep or Klopp, and I could be wrong, but their first couple of seasons, I did not see them make drastic changes to the way they played.
Season by season. He changed his formation about 3 times in his second bloody season.
They had the players that they brought in specifically to suit what they were trying to do. And after instilling the philosophy, when the players know what you're trying to do, then you can make some tweaks. Look, if it's a philosophical
18 months
thing, right?
isn't long enough to adapt it with 10 of the 11 that he's got in the first team.
I agree with you. Sure, he should be able to make some tweaks. I agree with you. But we're talking about formation. There is no way he's going to go to back 5 or back 3. That's not how it works. But dude, ultimately it's this. If we want to finish 5th consistently, a manager will be asked to adapt to his players. If a team wants to challenge, the manager will say, this is the style I'm playing, and I will bring the players in that fit my style. That's a philosophical difference.
And
so
we'll
yes, we
also
can say
on a gamely basis.
Doesn't adapt. I agree. But it doesn't matter how he sets up. Our ceiling is 6th. The only way that this club can actually challenge and actually, be in the mix is when we forget Ange, when we hire a manager, when we say, regardless of who you are, we're going to get the players that you need, all the players, and go from there. Adapting to somebody else's players isn't a recipe for success long term. Yes, we shouldn't be 13th or 14th.
And the thing is,
his players.
But that's it.
The thing is,
is his players.
Just on that, just as well, I just want to say quickly, look, like, I think we're sort of sitting here all agreeing in terms of Ange Postecoglou and his refusal to adapt, and because he can still play his philosophy, and like you said, he can say it to one of the fullbacks, sit in today, they've got a tricky winger there, don't go forward, don't leave yourself exposed. There are little things within that he can adjust. I fully agree with that. I don't think anyone's debating that. But what my whole point, and the reason why I'm sort of here debating it to a certain degree. And I know it looks like I'm sticking up for Postecoglou. I'm not, but I really think it is important moving forward. We understand what is a manager problem and what isn't a manager problem. So when the next guy comes in, we all have clarity around what we should be calling for as a fan base. Because I think, putting everything on the manager, I think is wrong, because then going forward, it's going to keep happening under every single manager. And that's why I'm here today. I'm just trying to say, yes, Postecoglou, he's digging his own grave right now. I agree with some of the stuff you're saying. But it's also important to know where the club have gone wrong by Postecoglou, so that going forward, we can sort of get out of this mess. We can't keep getting into this mess every 16 to 18 months. And to what Eugene said earlier on, making the manager the scapegoat when he walks out the door, because people done it with Conte, people done it with Jose. I was getting to the point where they're making absolutely everything his problem. It doesn't serve a purpose moving forward. So, I don't think anyone's sitting here debating whether Postecoglou is going to be sacked or not. I think inevitable it's going to happen. It's just whether they keep him in here in January to get players in and sack him in February, or whether they're going to do it after the Everton game. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. But it is important to know where the club have failed them, so that we don't let them or keep letting them away with it going forward or under the next manager going forward, because we're never going to come out of the cycle otherwise.
Dave, can I just add to it, because I've got to head off in a couple of minutes, just to say that when you have owners who have no interest in the footballing side and completely neglect it while they're looking after everything else, the footballing side sooner or later starts to go down and down and down. You can have luck you can have luck, and it can last for so long. He picked Van Gaal. Van Gaal was going to join. Then United came in for Van Gaal, and we finished up with Pochettino. So Pochettino came in. We had great football under him. We didn't quite get the trophy, but it was the first time for me in my lifetime that I've seen Spurs actually challenge properly around the top of the table for 2 years running.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, since '65. So, we're not a league team, but we've always been competitive with cups.
Yeah.
Now, if you neglect the footballing side, then obviously it ends up failing. This is what's happening here. We've had the top managers. We've had decent managers. People like Pochettino came in based on building Southampton, bringing youngsters through. He hadn't had actual success trophy-wise, but he was a good up-and-coming manager. You had Harry Redknapp, who was an established guy. Martin Kelworth was established. Hoddle had been an England manager. But sooner or later, if you don't keep strengthening, if there's no long-term strategy, no long-term policy, how are you going to build the club the way that other clubs have been built? And let's take the oil clubs out. Let's talk about how Liverpool do things, because that's not a state-run club. And so you can do it. You haven't got an oligarch who's given Chelsea on average 75 million per year for 20 years and ended up being owed 1.5 billion that got written off. So sooner or later, it's going to fail. And this is what's happening now. The standard, the quality of players we are getting is dropping and dropping. Levy's cutting the wage bill, so the quality of player you're going to get is not going to be of the standard that other clubs get who pay higher wages. Our wages to revenue comparison, I think, is the lowest in the Premier League now. I think we're 7th or 8th highest wage payer. So by rights, we're going to finish around that position.
And we also 16th in terms of owner investment in the Premier League table. If you take all Premier League clubs now and current owners, aren't we like 16th or 17th in that as well in terms of actual investment?
I thought we was actually lower than that, tell the truth.
Maybe it is, but yeah, they are lower than that.
It was actually more like 18th.
So managers are not backed. When you look at, and I'm going to say this, when you look at, and I've gone through the players, and you can see that of the players that have bought for Angie's first 11, there's maybe 3/4 out of 14, 15. I'm not including Gray and Bergvall in there and Spence, who are in the team because of injuries. And you look at the players, I worked out here, it's about 290 million. Forget the add-ons, they don't exist, particularly with this club. So we spent 290. You've got Kane, Skip, Winks, Emerson, Lo Celso, Højbjerg, Sanchez, and that comes to, I think, about 175. So you've got just over 100 million net spend, less 60 million that he spent, that he saved on wages, I believe. So you're looking at a net spend over, and this is the fourth transfer window that he's involved in. 40, I was going to say 40 million, add Kinski on, because that's just been agreed, 12.5 million. So you've got a 55 million net spend and 3 or 4 players who he has bought for his main first team squad. So I don't know how anybody can say that he has been backed properly. I don't get it. You know, everybody think, yeah, he's been back. He's been back. Levy's backed him on 2 big buys that he wanted, which were Solanke and Johnson. So you could say that, yes, when you look at the record of Ndombele at 54 and everything since then has been under, Johnson and Solanke, that he overpaid on both. You know, and unfortunately, there should have been a succession plan in place for when Kane left. But all of that money should have been used on a top striker. Even if they didn't get him, they should have showed ambition and gone for people like Isak, and they didn't. And this is where we are now, with a mid-table squad, with a handful of decent players, based on being paid mid-table wages, and now they're in free fall. Now they're in a situation where they're losing games. They've got a manager who won't change his system, so everybody knows what to expect. There's no element of surprise. There's no battle tactically with other managers because he's been sussed out. He won't change. He won't change his system. He won't change rotation. He doesn't. His in-game management is shite. The training intensity and pressing intensity is causing injury after injury. And this is why, when you look at it, in literally 3 or 4 minutes of summing up, this is why we are in free fall as a club.
100%. 100%.
No, I agree.
Can I just ask, Dan? Go on, Dan. You go first, and I just want to ask a question. Go on, mate.
I was just saying I agree. Ian's right. Can't really debate or argue. None of that. The only point with Ange that I keep making to it is just, even in certain games, in the middle of games, if he would just do what a majority of managers do and say, right, we're 2-1 up. Right, now come back, get some space, sit in, take the game, ride it. He doesn't even do that. I mean, we talk about a plan B. I don't even think the team don't even know his plan A. When I keep saying adapt, I don't just mean change the whole formation. He hasn't got that capability. Simple as that. He is not a good manager. That is why he has never had a quality job in a quality league, bar now. At 58, it says it all. But if even at certain times he would just say, right, we got 10 minutes left, sit back, take it all, do what. But no, he goes the same way. How many points could we have actually got if in certain games he would have just changed it a bit in the middle of the game, like I will say 70% of managers do, and he just does nothing.
And the thing is, look, I can fully understand that frustration. I fully understand it. I think many people are with you on that. But, you know, again, it comes down to the club doing the wrong thing, you know. Like, when we look at the transfer...
Right, I've got to shoot.
Right, big up, Ian.
Thanks for having me on. Subscribe to this. It's a great channel, guys. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Ian. Big up, Ian. Big up, Ian.
Let's hope for better days, eh?
Yeah,
well,
Thanks,
it can't get worse.
It can.
Oh, all right. Well,
we're still 13th. It can.
I remember 76.
I was going to ask you before you go. If we lose to Everton at the weekend, are we in a relegation battle?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Because Everton and Leicester, when you look at the fixtures that we got left, these are games we've got to win.
Yeah.
All the games against the clubs below us are 6 pointers. We win those 6. We win the next 2 games. We shoot up. We're away from the Wolves and Ipswiches. Because we're 8 clear of Wolves at the moment. I've no idea how the games are going tonight, how Ipswich are doing. But we're 8 clear of Wolves. And that could potentially be 14 points with 15 games to go. So that's going to be a bit of a hill to climb for Wolves. So we should be more comfortable. And then we can start pushing back up, hopefully into the top half of the table. And that will mean that there's no worry on the league front. We can concentrate on the cups. but they have got to win. They've got to get 6 points from Everton and Leicester. Leicester, I can see.
Brighton have done Ipswich 2-0, and Man United are 1-0 down to Southampton at Old Trafford.
Wow. Good God.
Hopefully
Just talking about this is mental. Just
Ian,
even
it's been
having
a
this
pleasure,
conversation about Ipswich.
Cheers, guys. I've got to shoot.
Thanks,
Cheers, Ian.
Speak to you soon.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
This is crazy. I never thought I'll be on a stream talking about relegation battle and following Ipswich scores. This is insane.
It's absolutely madness what's going on at our club at the moment, to be quite honest with you. You know, we as fans can try and pick the bones out of it, and we'll all have different reasons coming up of why he should stay and why he should go and why we shouldn't change the manager. But at the end of the day, as we stand at the moment, we're going the wrong way, like 100%. Big style. And I just dread, like Ian said, 6 points. You don't win them games, we're in trouble.
Mark,
we are in trouble.
Mark, since the first 10 games of when Ange first arrived, we've been going the wrong way. It's been steadily going downhill. Yep. Those first 10 games have papered over a lot of cracks with this man.
Yeah.
You know, to finish 5th, right after we were top at 10 games, do you know only 4 or 5% of teams finish outside top 4 if they're top after 10 games? Sky had all the stats on when we were top after 10 games.
Again, Mark, it hasn't just been this guy. The reason why we ended up at Postecoglou is because things were going wrong months before that again.
Yeah.
You know, it hasn't just been Postecoglou. It's been since.
Oh, no. No.
There is one thing I want to just bring up quickly, you know, and I've heard, you know, people talk about the transfers and, you know, Ange Postecoglou signing. I do think, again, there has to be understanding of the transfer policy and system at Tottenham Hotspur. First of all, we changed it from a manager to a contract under Pochettino, or a manager to a head coach under Pochettino, the job description, which means the reason why Levy's done that is because he doesn't want the managers having a say in the transfer market. He wants to have control of the transfer market with his team on what he can bring in. So straight away there, he's going after the club's best interest, and he's pivoting away from the old school way of give the manager what he wants. Now, we also work with a director of football. He's also in charge of going off identifying players and bringing them in here. That's generally what their jobs are. Also, the money that we've pumped into the scouting department in terms of the analytics, and you keep seeing off the likes of Kinski and other players we signed, they're signed off of that. That's not the manager picking them. That's the club flagging the players up for what they're looking for. The club basically have a system where I think now they want to play a certain type of football, which seems to be attacking football. Now, Johan Lang, even when he signed on the dotted line, he done an interview, said, I'm here to work off the club's remit. So he's working off the club's remit, which also means Postecoglou's working off the club's remit. We have not invested all that money to develop something like Brighton have. And the reason why we've done it is because they very rarely go wrong with transfers because they sign off this data model. We've tried to copy that. So the notion, the narrative that the manager is signing the players ain't true. You know, he'd probably come in and he'll probably get maybe 2 that he wants. They'll go some way to work with him to a degree. But the rest of what follows in the door, same as why we ended up at Spence, you know, with Conte here and stuff like that. And he said, this is a club signing up me, is because the club will always revert back to their data transfer model and bring in the players. So they're not even pairing it up right. You know, if they're going to go down that model, you've got to then bring in a manager that is known for adapting, because he's going to adapt to what you're doing in the transfer market and stuff. But what we're doing is we're trying to operate one way, and then we're bringing in a manager that has a steadfast philosophy, and we're trying to match it up, and it's not working out. And the manager is the one always taking the hit for it. And the reason why is because it's cheaper to do. And sacking the managers, a lot of the times, is giving Levy the cheap way out, making them fix these mistakes and making them spend 20, 30, 40 million times over to fix these mistakes is where we're actually going to, you know, see the rewards of it going forward. Hiring and firing managers and trying to pair up 2 different philosophies is never going to work at this football club. So they either bring in a manager that's ready to adapt and is known for that, or they pivot and they start doing what the managers want to do if they're hiring them. And the reason why they're hiring managers with CVs behind them is to keep the fans happy, because they also know the problems they've got trying to keep this club afloat without Kane, without Son and stuff like that, who kept this club afloat for many years with their performances, the goals, their assists in big games and stuff like that. So I think there has to be an understanding as well. You can't just go, well, these players came in under a manager, they're all his signings. It's not the reality of the football club. It's not the truth. And there has to be an understanding around the transfer window as well, because I don't like that narrative, because I think, again, it doesn't serve any justice going forward. There has to be an understanding of, this is the way the club operate in the transfer market. We ain't bringing in players for that manager. We're bringing them in for the long-term philosophy of the club. So then the fans can have an understanding and make a proper educated opinion of the guy that they're bringing in and going, yeah, this has a chance of working out because the two philosophies are matching up. But, right now, you're not really giving any manager a chance, and the fans aren't giving any manager a chance because there's no understanding of, how the transfer system is set up and the way we operate and the way the managers are operating.
Okay. I'll go with what you say there. I can't argue that. You're right. You are right on what you're saying. But the points I will counter on that is, I do believe that some of these are his signing. Werner, I don't know, we can argue that one either way, but I would have thought any manager that they'd have rather just gone without a player than had Werner there. But we know how the system works. The point I'll give with it, though, is you go and look at that team he's got. Now compare it to Conte. Now compare it to Mourinho. Bar Son, when he was good, because now, as far as I'm concerned, he's done as a Premier League player. He'll have his moment, but that's about it. And obviously Kane, who just carried us through more than I think a lot of us realised. Does he still not have a significantly better team than what Conte and Mourinho had?
I disagree on that, Dan, and I'll tell you why.
You think?
I'll tell you why. I think maybe in terms of a better defence, I think, yeah, maybe you can argue that. Are we better in the midfield? I think it's hard to argue. I think you go back, some people would probably kill for having some experience like Højbjerg playing the Højbjerg in the number 6 this
I'll
season.
agree with that one.
And also the forward line. The forward line is much weaker than what they had. And I think people actually underestimate, how good Son and Kane were as a partnership, how many points they put on the board, how much they done for Tottenham, how many games they dragged us through. Postecoglou doesn't have that ability. Kane and Son were able to get Conte out of trouble. They were able to get Jose out of trouble to a large degree. Postecoglou can't rely on that. And that's why I think, to a degree, it is actually a bit weaker, or it's a bit harder of a job.
In that aspect, they carried us a long way. There's no ifs or buts about it. But I think overall, he's got a significantly better first 11 at least than what we did have. I mean, God, look who Conte got put in for him in defence, and we are conceding literally more goals, or only 4 less goals by the end of last season than Conte done with Longley, Dyer, and bloody Sanchez in there.
Well, again,
I'm sorry, that is not excusable for me.
Yeah,
and the other thing is, scoring goals is not our problem. We do actually score goals. Yes, a lot of our goals are in patches in games, but we literally score every game. How many games do we not actually score in? The problem with us comes down to our defensive side, where it's so bloody wide open, and we have a significantly, I will even go as far to say 10 times better defence, if you go player for player of what they should be, than what Conte and Mourinho ever had.
I don't disagree.
And our problem is at the back.
But what you didn't factor into that analysis is Conte sat 11 men behind the ball, protect that back line. Postecoglou ain't doing that with this back line. So, that's the major difference there. We're not sitting 11 men behind to protect that back line. We're not sitting there playing on the counter. We're trying to play possession based on the front foot football. So you're always going to leave that back line exposed. So there is a chance that they are going to concede maybe more in around the same, because we're not setting up to protect the back line. I agree with you. We do have a better back line, but again, different systems. You know what I mean? If you're setting up to protect the back line, that's why I don't measure it off what Conte done, because it's 2 complete different systems.
Mm-hmm. So,
right, and there were so many games. There were so many games. I remember, Dan, when we had only 2 shots the whole game, 1 or 2 shots the whole game under Conte, under Jose, and like Dave said, Kane and Son, they bail us out time and time again because nobody else could score.
Time and time again.
So
of course they did. If he just changed it, this one main thing, the bit I always pick on, if he just stopped inverting those 2 bloody wing backs at the same time and then putting them in the number 10 position, do you think that would be 25-30% of his problem solved?
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with you on that. I think it'd make you a bit more defensively solid to a certain degree. Yeah,
That is where I think we are most open and vulnerable. That is what literally every team comes onto us.
Yeah.
And at the moment, they're aiming at Porro because Porro is just knackered and he has just gone to shit, basically. Or they focus it down the other side. If he would just change that one thing, that is the thing I keep on screaming at. And I don't see how him adapting and using them as more fullbacks and overlapping wing backs when they need to, or just have one going forward and invert if he has to and bring it to 3 at the back while the system is going on as such. I can't see how he can't even adjust to that because it's not exactly changing his whole system, is it? I just can't understand how he just can't even see that. But like the manager even stated, he doesn't really care about conceding goals. He just wants to score goals.
Well, Dan, you're right in the regard of the inverted fullbacks, and I don't think anybody is arguing about it. Dave and I don't think we're arguing about that. What I'm pushing back on is everything else, that everything is put on edge. But I agree with you as far as the inverted fullbacks. If he stops doing it, we'll definitely see more success.
That is my biggest problem with him.
Yeah, that you cannot argue with that.
I've got with the fella. If he would just change that, I'd sit back a bit because I think.
Wouldn't it make a difference, lads? Wouldn't it make a difference if he only, like you just said, Dan, even if he only let one go?
Yeah,
it'd be
like we did against City, and then we had 3 at the back.
You just slide in and make a 3 when we haven't got the ball, and at least we got 3 there when we lose the ball, rather than being so wide open with 2
sitting
at the
on
back.
the halfway line.
And if one of them goes, why don't, for the love of God, play a number 6 that could slot in to make the 4th?
But again,
Again, I don't disagree, but we're not hiring that type of manager. He's not that type of guy. This is where it's all gone wrong in the first place.
Right.
So basically, the fact that he can't even adapt that little thing, he's not good enough.
No.
If we're playing this football where our back line is open, we at least need to score goals. And what I've been saying for a long time is our main issue is not even on the defensive end. It's us scoring goals. In games when we did have opportunities, just the players are not good enough to execute. We can only score 1 or 2 goals a game against teams who play a low block against us. All our goals came in 5 games against those big teams. That's it.
We have
every other game we struggle.
We score goals. It's defense that is our problem. That is where we get screwed every point.
If you look at every game that we lost, we scored 1 goal. We scored most of our goals against 5 teams, 5 games. Every other game, we could barely score 2 goals.
And we usually concede more goals for exactly the same reasons.
Right. Can I ask you that? If we had a better forward line and we were able to sustain attacks a lot better, we were able to sustain pressure a lot better, do you think that would actually alleviate some of the pressure on the back line? Because
midfield as well, Dave.
Say that again, Eugene?
And midfield as well. Like, Bissouma turning the ball over for fun, that's not helping. So you're spot on.
No, God, I didn't hear a thing on the question.
No, I was just saying, Dan, look, I don't disagree with you on the back line, right? We are leaking goals and it does need to tighten up a little bit. I don't disagree with you. But Andrew's an attacking manager, and like I highlighted, he's got relegation fodder to work with. If we had better players going forward, we would create a lot more chances, which pushes teams back further, and we're able to sustain attacks a lot longer than what we currently are. Because we're so piss poor going forward, we get the ball turned over nearly every time we go forward, which then leaves the back line exposed. So if we had better forward players, do you think it would improve that situation across the back to a degree?
Yes, I do. But the point I make with that is I'll agree with you. If we had better players, I reckon we'd be higher up. But the point I will make with Ange is my personal opinion is we can now sit here and come up with the best 11 the universe has ever seen. He will still never win a league. Never in a million years. He will never win in the Premier League. He will never win in the Bundesliga. He will never win in La Liga. He will never win in Serie A. Okay, the French league, if you're Paris Saint-Germain, you can do what the fuck you want. But my point is even with the best team this planet has ever seen, he would still never win a league. He might get third, but he would still never win it because there will still be those times where we'll be so naked at the back that we will just get opened up in a game and we will concede too many goals. So I agree with what you're saying. Better players who can play to this system, you're going to see it better. No ifs or buts. But at the end of the day, go stick Nesta and Maldini at the back, Roberto Carlos on the left, and then go stick whoever you want on the right. We are still going to concede too many goals to go anywhere in the league. Do I think he can win a cup like this? Yes, I can, because a cup, you can get to a final out of pure luck. Look at England in the bloody finals. We should have been nowhere bloody near it, yeah? You can win a cup with a lot of luck and a good game or two. But I still don't think he would ever succeed in a league, a big league as such. I mean, going to Celtic, let's be deadly honest here, yeah? Me and you could go to Celtic and basically win the league with Celtic. Look, you said you followed him, how he done it there. He even had the same injuries in Celtic that he has at Spurs. It's just where they are so dominant to everyone out there, he could afford half his team missing and still go and destroy it. Over here, you cannot do that in the Premier League. You cannot do that in Serie A, La Liga, Bundesliga. You can't do it. This is why I say this man, he will never, ever succeed in a big league. But he might get a cup. He might.
Fair enough.
Is 17th in a cup good enough? I've been one of the ones who said, you know what, if we finish 15th and get a cup, I'll put my hands up and say, give him another 6 months. We've seen a bit of silverware. But how bad is that when we are willing to say that, or I am willing to say that? I can't speak for everybody.
No, look, that's fair enough. You know, I'm not going to argue with that. But look, guys, I do just want to say I do have to bounce. But first of all, Mark Cousins, absolute pleasure, my man, and also
No
Mark,
worries,
look,
mate.
absolute pleasure, my man. Great to meet you and have a conversation with you, Eugene. Great being on with you again, and Dan, I've really enjoyed the back and forth. You know, at the start, I did come in. I felt like my back was up against the wall a little bit, but you know, I really enjoyed the debate.
Dave, it's all about opinions on here. We don't want it to end up being a one side or the other. We want everyone to come in and everyone to have their chats together and form their opinions, whether you agree or not. It don't need to go into a slanging match, which it hasn't. You know, thanks ever so much for coming on, Dave. We really appreciate it, mate. And hopefully you'll come back on again soon.
Take care.
100% I will. And, you know, I just want to say to everybody that's tuning now, please smash the like button, get behind the boys. You know, I really like, you know, Tottenham people out there doing their thing because, you know, for years it's been dominated by the big clubs, United, Arsenal, stuff like that. So it's good to see Tottenham fans getting out there doing their thing. So make sure you get your support behind the boys. And lastly, Greg B, yes, it was the guy that coined the term Gil Messi. I was having a bit of fun. But also, I was the guy that kind of term Don Paratici that got ridiculed for. How many people want him back at the club now? So I'll leave you with that. But guys,
there we are.
Have a good evening, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Hang on. I'll get your channel up. All right.
Yeah, please subscribe to Dave at the Irish Hotspur. You probably already have.
I was going to say, everyone who's in here probably already has subscribed to the Irish Hotspur. You know, he's a lot larger than all of us. But if you haven't,
you need to shoot as well, Dan.
Yeah. I've already done 40 minutes more than I was meant to do.
Right, hang on. There we go, then. There we go.
So go over to the Hotspur Hood and make sure you subscribe to him as well. You got any content coming up soon, Dan?
Sooner or later, you know how erratic I am. I mean, like I say, I was only meant to do an hour tonight, but next week I'll have more on there. And thanks for having us on. And everybody, give them a like and subscribe. You had 150 on it plus tonight, so you're already up and going on it. Take care, people. Eugene, Mark, Sava, Dave. Always good debate. Take care, people.
Yeah. Cheers, Dan. Cheers, Dan. Big up, mate. And then there was three.
Eugene. So what have we got to do, Eugene? We'll just be brief
now,
for 10 minutes, and then unless anyone else is coming on. Say that again, mate. I missed what he said. Sorry, Eugene. Yeah, what are you thinking?
I said now, since I'm the only one left.
Yeah, tell me what your feelings are. Are we in a relegation battle if we lose at the weekend, or are we in one now? What's your opinion?
I mean, honestly, we'll be fine. I mean, the bottom three teams are really bad, so we should be okay. It's still unacceptable what's happening, even though I don't really care for Ange to get sacked. If we lose to Everton, he has to go. That's just the way it is. But we're not in the relegation battle, no. I mean, we'll be fine, I believe. As soon as some players are coming back, we're going to have some more depth. We should be okay. Okay, meaning we'll, finish maybe 9th at best. I don't think we're going to be in Europe next year unless we win a cup. which is unacceptable to begin with. But I think it all depends if we bring anybody in this month. If we don't bring anybody in, it's going to be tough to win a cup either. So that's my issue.
It's going to be tough times.
Regardless of whether Angie's here or not, we need some players. It's going to be tough.
Absolutely.
Again, even if Angie's sacked tomorrow, we need some players to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, what are you thinking on it?
Oh, what about Ange and that?
Just about the rest of the season, if the form carries on like it is now.
Well, it can't carry on as it is now, man, because we're slipping down the table like anyone's business. I mean, will Daniel be happy that we're slipping down the league like this? I mean, you got to remember, even if we do win the League Cup, the prize money for that is woeful.
About $1 million,
woeful.
Or something?
Well, no, it's less than that. It's about half to $750,000. And even the FA Cup, which is one that I'd love to win, is only £2 million for the winner.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we make 3 times that every home game. If you add everything in, beer, food, tickets, you know, that's the money-making stadium that has been opened. It makes $6 million a game, I believe, in turnover. That includes, like, you know, season tickets and food and drink and, you know, so, you know, I mean, Daniel wants money. We all know he's just interested in the money. So I'll be honest, now Europe looks out the cards as well. I'm surprised he hasn't been sacked already. You know, because you know what Daniel's like. If you don't get Champions League, you're out the door. He's got you by the ear and out you go. Well, we ain't getting it anyway.
It's funny, like Champions League and Spurs I can't even see us being close to Champions League. And even by some miracle, if we'd make it, we'd just get embarrassed. So it's not even close. Yeah. Especially with who we're looking in, you know, to bring in all the loans and everything else. That's just embarrassing. For the club of our size, cutting 40 million in wages and looking for loan deals and players on expiring deals, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to remember as well, when the stadium was being built, we were all told, this is it now. This is taking us to the next level. We'll be able to compete with the game-changing stadium. We'll be able to compete with the Chelseas, the Man Cities. Ignore the charges that they, you know, but we'll be able to compete. What we've actually done since the stadium is open is lower the wage bill dramatically, and you know, I honestly don't understand what's going on, because this game-changing stadium was meant to take us to the next level, and at the moment we're going backwards.
Well, we need quality, don't we, at the end of the day?
Yeah,
you know, we've been banging on about this for years and years, and you get the odd one that comes through or the odd one that you buy and you think, oh, yeah, I like him. But it's the odd one, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We're not building a team. And if we are building a team, it's full of youngsters. Why can't we go out and buy quality? It doesn't necessarily need to be world class, but you're not telling me there's not players of quality out there that want to come and play for Spurs. 40, 45, 50 million, less than that. There's scouts out there that are meant to be doing their job. Sod the data-driven. Get your eyes open.
Yeah.
Right.
Get your eyes open and go and scout and watch people. You know, don't worry about computer spreadsheets.
No.
Get out
as
there
Ian
and
said
watch
earlier,
with your eyes.
Yep, as Ian said earlier, we cannot compete financially maybe with City or Chelsea, but we can compete with Arsenal and Liverpool. When Liverpool sold Coutinho, they went back and they bought Alisson and Van Dijk, 2 elite world-class players. So you could tell the recruitment and scouting is levels above ours. There's nothing that stops us from doing the same thing. It's just we have people in place like the board and Levy. They're okay with the mediocrity. Our medical team is shambles. For decades, our recruiting team and scouting team is terrible. Our managers don't fit what we want to do. There is nothing about this club, top to bottom, that's elite or state of the art, right? We're all average. The medical team is average, the recruiting team is average, the managers are average, the players are average. So obviously there's no surprise that we're getting average results on the pitch. So that's just the way it is. Until it changes, until the board demands excellence top to bottom from every single part of this club, we'll be hoping for 5th place in the league every single year. And nothing is going to change.
And that's miles off this year, Eugene and Mark, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
we're not
exactly.
getting anywhere near that this year.
Yep.
You know, nowhere near.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's just mind-boggling to me that we're in this position as we are. You know, and I'm just struggling with it all. That we're where we are as a Tottenham fan. You know, with everything that's going on in the club, the manager, the tactics, him upstairs. You know, it just seems like it's a money-making adventure for everyone else, but that money's not being, you know, correctly spent on the team as we go forward. You know, I'm not saying they're not spending money, but they're not spending it correctly, are they?
No. Well, the trouble is with our club at the moment, it's more about the bank balance than it is the football pitch. You know, and that's the way it's been since the owner's been here. Because he said that as soon as he bought the club. We are here to make money.
We're having these arguments about managers, and yes, Ange, I changed my mind on Ange. He's definitely not the manager for us long term, even this year. But look, last 3 times we tried to hire a manager, we had to settle for our 4th choice or 5th choice. Nuno was our 8th choice. Ange was our 4th choice. Conte wasn't even our 1st choice when he came on. So no manager with any ambition or no manager with options is going to come to this club. So we're going to be stuck with Ryan Mason or a mid-table manager with no options, or somebody from abroad like Ange with no CV. So that's just the way it is. Until those managers see that the club is showing ambition and they're spending real money on top players. When that happens, at least those managers will say, you know what, I can see some potential. I'm going to go and take a chance. Until then, the managers see what happened with Ange, Jose, Nuno, Conte, and they're like, there's no way I'm coming here to manage this lot. So that's why I'm really down. Even if we sack Ange next year or this year, I don't think much is going to change, unfortunately.
It never will. Well, I've always said it doesn't matter who we get. Look, we've had 2 of the best managers. We've had 2 of the best managers in, whether you like their tactics or not, but statistically, like Conte and Jose, they've won everywhere. Right? But even getting them in, who are 2 of the great managers in modern world football, right? Even they've like got a handicap before they start, because they've got to deal with the boss man. You know what I mean? I mean, we could get Pep, prime Pep. Maybe not this year's Pep, but he's still a great manager, whether he's dropped off or not. We could have had prime Pep when he did the quad with Man City. He still won't win Tottenham anything. You know, because it's what we are as a club. You know, trophies and winning things is secondary to off-the-field activities, hotels, global domination, whatever they're trying to do. Getting the NFL, something you know about, Eugene, getting the NFL involved. I mean, that's worth a mint. It's worth an absolute fortune.
So that's exactly where this is going. Levy wants NFL to come in. That's why we haven't sold the naming rights yet. I think
exactly
that's what he's waiting for, and then hopefully he'll sell. But look, we're under Poch. We got lucky where we had once in a generation team where we had top players at almost every position, and we squandered that. by Levy not backing Poch when it mattered. Now the league is different. Now every team has money to spend. So before, when we did have some money and our scouting was okay, now our scouting is shambles and we don't spend money. So now repeating what we had under Poch, it's not going to happen again. Our starting 11 is not going to be as good as it was before. So you can bring in Poch, you can bring in Ancelotti, you can bring in Pep. It's not going to matter. So what we need, I want to see a plan from the club. If they tell us we're going to go with the youth and in the next 3-4 years we'll develop youth, okay, fine. At least I see a plan. Now there's no plan. We buy youth, we buy average older players and not going anywhere. So nobody has any idea what's going on. All the fans are pissed off. Everybody's fighting with each other. And what Levy's going to do, he's going to sack Ange. He's going to bring in the next victim and buy himself another 18 months.
Yeah. The thing is, though, why do you think we buy this youth? Because we buy this youth, all right, some of it's not been cheap because Matey Boy wasn't cheap, was he? The one from Leeds. Whoever. I can't remember anything anyway. Archie Gray was not cheap. 40 million, whatever he spent on him. But if he suddenly...
Right,
Yeah. But like, if Archie Gray really hits the ground running in 2 or 3 years, when he's like 21, 22 years old, he suddenly shoots up to 90 million, 100 million.
Yeah.
Levy would not think twice but to sell him. It's the same as Bergvall. Bergvall has looked fantastic. But should our club be putting all their eggs in the youngsters' basket? But believe you me, if Bergvall really makes it, and he becomes the next 70, 80 million pound player, he'd be gone. He'd be out of here.
Of course.
Mark, we've got another level to that. What you're talking about, that's fine because they're the young kids. What you got to worry about is people coming in for Van der Ven, because he was 40 odd million, whatever he was. So if it turns round for him and his form gets going and, managers like him, he could be the next 80, 90 million out the door. That's a 40 million profit to Levy. Same with Romero. Whether you want him or not, he's a 40 million pound player. If someone offers 60, 70 million, he's going to take it. And that's why Archie Gray's coming in at 40 million, because hopefully he'll turn out to be a decent player that can be sold for 70, 80 million later on. And so with Bergvall and so on. But we've already got them there that can be picked from the premier clubs if they want to take them, if they want to offer the money. You know what I mean? This layer that you've got coming in now, that's the next layer for 4 or 5 years' time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Levy sells players. If he could make a profit, and especially a big profit, he's going to sell them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and plus, we're that unambitious as players. If these players do develop, like I'm sure Daniel hopes they will, and they get to their 22, 23rd birthday, and we still haven't won anything, they're going to say, stuff this, I want to win trophies. Because it's like Harry Kane. The reason Harry Kane left is because when he's got grandkids around his house and they say, Granddad, you were a footballer, yeah? What did you actually win? You weren't going to stay with us and say nothing. Oh, I won 3 golden boots, a World Cup golden boot. He's not going to say that. He's going to want to say, oh, look at this Bundesliga. Look at this, whatever the German FA Cup is. He's not going to stay at Tottenham and say, well, we finished second once and third once and, we were in the top 4. I mean, what sort of nonsense is that? He's going to want to get his medals out and his England caps and, that's stuff you can, show off about. He's not going to want to say to his grandkids, oh, well, we finished twice once and I got 5 golden boots, how many he's got from the Premier League.
Yeah.
I don't mean nothing.
The Kane situation, basically, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about. Harry Kane, when he's got his that's why he left.
Yeah.
That's why he left. And when Poch was here and we finished second, if Levy had, because you got to remember that the transfers weren't as crazy as they are now. If Levy had give Poch 70, 80 million, That would have got you 3 top players. We could have won both those leagues in them 2 years, the Leicester season and the year after with Chelsea. Easily we could have done that because we had the best team anyway. The only thing we were lacking is the backups. I hate using that word backups. The ones that can challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's what a squad should be about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation before, Mark. It's not just about 11. It's about the 20 or the 22, whatever it is. You've got to have depth in your squad. And it's all right having youngsters there. And, Archie and Bergville have done all right the last couple of games, considering Archie's been out of position as well. I really hope it takes off for him. But I need to see him in his position.
Yeah.
He was bought as a centre midfielder or DM, whatever you want to call it. Play the kid there. Play him there. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, Eugene and Mark, on that, but, square pegs, round holes, that's all it seems to be at this club all the time. And I just struggle with it. And that yesterday,
I mean, right now,
when he makes 3 subs in the
we
second
just don't
half,
have
and
many options.
they're all attacking
Seems-
midfielders
yeah,
he brings on.
most
It's mad. But there you go. Anyway, Mark, have you got anything else, or Eugene got anything else you want to say? Because we're going to wrap the show up before I plug all the channels that have been on tonight.
Nothing. Well, we got to try and do our outro correctly this time.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
You remember the disaster on the first show?
Thanks.
Yeah, that's all right.
Thanks for having me on. Yep. We're good.
Nice one, Eugene. It's been great to have you on, as it has to have all the guests on, and especially the chat. I can't believe how many people we've had in here tonight. It's been amazing.
Thank you,
But
guys.
thanks
Yeah.
for
Appreciate it.
all your support. It's been absolutely fantastic. Eugene, thank you very much, and we'll see you again. Thank you to the Irish Hotspur. Thank you to Sava. Thanks to Ian Lubin. And thank you to the Hotspur Hood. I haven't forgot anyone. Mark, have I? No, I think I've got everyone.
I think that's it, mate.
One other big up to my boy Aaron. He's in the chat. I just want to
Is
say
he?
to him, big up,
Oh,
son.
oh,
Aaron.
this is Aaron.
Yeah, that's my son. Big up to
Yeah,
you, Aaron.
big up, sir.
Proper yid,
Please,
Aaron. Proper yid.
yeah.
So,
please like and subscribe and all that.
yeah, like and subscribe. Get behind all the channels. We're all a community, and we should all be talking about our beloved Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone, for being here. We really appreciate it.
I'll just get to the bottom of the chat. Right, that's it. Now, who's going first, Mark, on the outro?
Oh, I'll go first. I'll probably still do it wrong, Mark, but we'll make everyone laugh, won't we, again?
Yeah. Well, no. Hang on, I just got to work. Yeah, right, I've got it.
Is it me first, then?
Did you? Yeah. Did you want to go first?
I'll go first. It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a good. No, it's a good night. No. Is it a
It
good
doesn't
night
matter,
or a
Mark.
good
It
night?
doesn't matter. Just
Oh.
say it.
All right, ignore that bit, chat. Ignore that bit. Right now.
It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a good night from him.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for being
Good
here.
night.